Hi friends, I just want to go through the role of Christo-Fascists in the Trump-Musk game of corruption. As a refresher of the basic game rules, we have the conflicting objectives of Trump and Musk, who are trying to accumulate wealth and power while avoiding accountability and responsibility to the average American citizen, which conflicts with the average citizen, who are trying to push back against manipulation, fraud, and corporate games that disadvantage them. Trump will be a key figure in pushing for tax reforms that critics claim disproportionately benefit wealthy individuals and large corporations. Musk, on the other hand, will face scrutiny for his own wealth and his sometimes controversial approach to business, including receiving government subsidies for his ventures while simultaneously benefiting from public support and resources. Critics may view these actions as taken from the public without giving back proportionally. Their actions will prioritize the interests of the rich and powerful over the welfare of everyday citizens. The players include Trump, Musk, the politicians, who are the facilitators in the game, and the American public, who are the pawns trying to survive the game while being manipulated through policies, misinformation, and wealth inequality. The role of Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists. In the corruption game, Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists play significant roles as players who seek to intertwine religious ideology with political power, often using their influence to advance authoritarian policies and disrupt democratic norms. These groups utilize religion as a tool for consolidating political control, justifying actions that benefit their power, while undermining democratic institutions and secular governance. They are often aligned with corporate figures like Trump, who can use their voter base and ideological support to maintain control, resist accountability, and pursue personal agendas. Now we will go through the role of Christo-Fascists in the corruption game. First, the religious agenda as political leverage. We'll call this the cross and the crown. Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists believe that the state should align with their interpretation of Christian teachings. In the game, they use their religious ideology as a tool to influence political outcomes, shape laws, and create a political climate where religious leaders and politicians benefit from state power and mobilization of faith-based voter blocs. Continuing with the religious agenda as political leverage, the cross and the crown. First, we have rallying the faithful. These groups use their religious influence to gather large numbers of voters who believe in a theocratic vision of governance. They can leverage evangelical support, religious leaders, and church networks to secure votes for corrupt political leaders who align with their goals. In a minigame, by playing the faith-based voter mobilization card, Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists can boost turnout among their base, ensuring corrupt leaders like Trump stay in power. They can also weaken opposition by fostering divisions based on religious identity. Continuing with the Christo-Fascist gameplay, the religious agenda as political leverage, theocratic legislation. They push for laws that align with their religious beliefs, often targeting abortion, LGBTQ+ rights, education, and gender equality. These groups may support authoritarian policies and anti-democratic measures in the name of protecting religious freedoms. In the minigame, the theocratic legislation card allows these players to pass laws that undermine separation of church and state, creating a political environment where the rule of law is influenced by religious doctrine rather than democratic principles. This serves to empower corrupt leaders and limit individual freedoms. The second section in the Christo-Fascist gameplay, using religion to justify authoritarianism, the divine right of rule. Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists often support authoritarian leaders who promise to impose their vision of moral order on society. They may justify the rise of strongmen and anti-democratic policies as divinely ordained. viewing the centralization of power and erosion of democratic institutions as part of a God-given plan. Continuing with the Christo-Fascist gameplay, using religion to justify authoritarianism, the divine right of rule. Support for authoritarian leaders. These groups often align themselves with corrupt leaders like Trump or Musk, who promise to protect traditional values and oppose secularism. They offer these leaders a base of support that can legitimize their rule, even if those leaders are corrupt, undemocratic, or self-serving. In the minigame, the Divine Support card boosts the authoritarian powers of corrupt leaders like Trump, giving them greater control over both the government and public opinion, as they can claim divine backing to push through unconstitutional actions and corrupt policies. Continuing with the second section of the Christo-Fascist gameplay, using religion to justify authoritarianism. Resistance to accountability. In the game, these groups will often shield corrupt leaders from accountability, viewing any investigation or legal action against them as a sinful attack on their religious beliefs. This allows corrupt leaders to escape justice and continue undermining democratic processes. In the minigame, by activating the Divine Protection card, these groups work to prevent legal consequences for corrupt leaders, insulating them from investigations, impeachment efforts, or prosecution. This keeps the corrupt players in power longer, preventing reform and accountability. The third section in the Christo-Fascist gameplay, promoting a divisive ideology, the culture war. Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists often engage in culture wars that focus on issues like abortion, LGBTQ+ rights, and gender equality, using these issues to divide society and polarize the electorate. In the game, this serves to distract the public from real issues like economic inequality, corruption, or other political reforms, while mobilizing their base to support authoritarian, corrupt leaders who promise to defend their cultural values. Continue with the third section of Christo-Fascist gameplay, promoting a divisive ideology, the culture war. Culture war tactics. These groups stir up fear and division, painting liberals, progressives, and secularists as threats to traditional values. This enables them to rally people behind corrupt leaders who promise to restore traditional cultural norms, even if those leaders are incompetent, self-interested, or corrupt. In the minigame, by playing the culture war card, they can split public opinion and weaken opposition, ensuring that Trump or other corrupt figures can maintain power by capitalizing on culture war battles, instead of focusing on addressing corruption or policy challenges. Continue with the third section of Christo-Fascist gameplay, promoting a divisive ideology, the culture war. Suppressing dissent. As a result of their divisive tactics, they can also work to undermine movements for social justice, equality, and anti-corruption reforms, framing these movements as part of a liberal, secular conspiracy against traditional values. In the minigame, the cultural suppression card can be used to discredit and dismantle progressive movements by framing them as antagonistic to religious values, making it harder for reformers to build momentum or unite the public against corrupt systems. The fourth section in the Christo-Fascist gameplay, supporting religious-backed corporations, the prosperity gospel. Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists may also support the corporate interests of religious leaders who seek to capitalize on faith-based businesses or use their religious networks to funnel money into political campaigns or lobbying efforts. This can contribute to corporate corruption and the blurring of lines between religion and business interests, particularly in cases where megachurches or religious-based organizations engage in exploitative economic activities. Continuing with the fourth section of Christo-Fascist gameplay, supporting religious-backed corporations, the prosperity gospel. Faith-based profiteering. Through prosperity gospel and religious market schemes, Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists can funnel money into political campaigns that support corrupt leaders or advance pro-business policies that benefit both the religious enterprises and the corrupt systems in place. In the minigame, by activating the faith-based business card, these players can fund political campaigns and lobby for pro-business policies that benefit both the religious organizations and the corrupt corporations tied to them, further entrenching the influence of corrupt actors. The endgame, the corruption effect of Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists. By strategically using religious ideologies as a tool for political manipulation, Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists create a system in which corruption and authoritarianism are justified through divine will, leading to, first, undermining democratic institutions. They push for the integration of religion into politics, weakening secular democratic norms, and encouraging the rise of authoritarian leaders who use religion to justify corruption and unconstitutional power grabs. Second, by mobilizing voter blocs. They harness faith-based communities to support corrupt leaders like Trump by casting them as defenders of religious values. This shifts political focus from accountability and transparency to culture war battles. Third, dividing the public. Through culture war rhetoric, they distract from economic inequality, climate change, and political corruption, while creating distractions that allow corrupt figures to maintain power. And fourth, disempowering reformers. By supporting religious-based systems, they block anti-corruption reforms and work to defend the status quo, one that enriches both religious leaders and corrupt political figures. In the corruption game, Christian nationalists and Christo-Fascists contribute to maintaining corrupt systems by creating a moral justification for authoritarian rule and undemocratic policies, making it harder for reformers to create meaningful change. Thank you for going through the rules of the Christo-Fascist gameplay in the Trump-Musk game of corruption.